Ladies and gentlemen, brace yourselves for a bone-chilling journey into the dark heart of human history. Today, we delve into the shadowy realm of ritual regicide, the practice of killing kings after a set time period. Oh boy, this is going to be one wild ride. Picture this. You're the all-powerful ruler of an ancient kingdom. The masses worship you as a living god. Gold, riches, and power are yours for the taking. But there's just one tiny catch. Your reign has an expiration date. And when that clock runs out, well, let's just say things are going to get messy. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute, why on earth would any society willingly off their own leader? Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because we're about to unpack this twisted tradition. You see, in many ancient cultures, kings weren't just political figureheads. They were considered divine beings, chosen by the gods to ensure the prosperity and fertility of the land. But here's the kicker. With great power comes great responsibility. And if crops failed or disaster struck, guess who got the blame? That's right, the poor schmuck wearing the crown. So some clever cookies came up with a solution. Why not give the king a set time to prove his worth? If things went south, they'd simply dispose of him and start fresh. Talk about a performance review from hell. One of the most infamous examples of this practice comes from the Shilluk people of South Sudan. Now get this, their king, known as the Reth, was believed to embody the spirit of Nyakang, the mythical founder of the Shilluk nation. Sounds pretty sweet, right? Well, not so fast. According to anthropologist James Fraser in his groundbreaking work, The Golden Bough, published in 1890, the Shilluk king's reign came with a brutal catch-22. See, the Reth was supposed to possess magical powers that ensured the well-being of his people. But the moment he showed any sign of weakness or illness, yeesh, let's just say things got real ugly, real fast. Imagine being that king, constantly looking over your shoulder, wondering if today's the day your own subjects decide you're past your prime. Talk about paranoia-inducing, it's enough to make anyone lose their marbles. But wait, it gets even crazier. In some cases, the king wasn't just killed. Oh no, that would be too simple. Instead, he was expected to commit ritual suicide. Can you believe it? One day you're lounging on your golden throne, the next you're being handed a poisoned chalice and told to chug a lug. Talk about a bad day at the office. Now let's hop in our time machine and zip over to ancient Egypt. You've probably heard of the pharaohs, those legendary god kings who built the pyramids and rocked some seriously fancy headgear. Well, turns out even they weren't immune to the whole kill the king craze. During the so-called Sed festival, which typically occurred after 30 years of a pharaoh's reign, the ruler had to prove he was still fit to rule. And we're not talking about a simple physical fitness test here, folks. No siree, this was a grueling ordeal that could last for days or even weeks. The pharaoh had to perform a series of rituals and tests, including running around a course to demonstrate his vitality. Can you imagine? There's old King Tut, huffing and puffing his way around the track, desperately trying to outrun Father Time himself. It's like the world's most high-stakes episode of American Ninja Warrior. But here's the real kicker. If the pharaoh failed these tests, it was curtains for him. Yep, you heard that right. One fumble, one wheeze too many, and it was game over. Talk about performance anxiety. Now let's shift gears and head on over to ancient Sparta. You know those tough-as-nails warriors who made Gerard Butler look like a wimp in 300? Well, even they had their own version of ritual regicide. And let me tell you, it's a doozy. See, the Spartans had this nifty little tradition called the Crypteia. Every autumn, the Spartan elders would declare war on their own Helot slave population. Yeah, you heard that right. They declared war on their own people. Talk about workplace toxicity. But here's where it gets really wild. The young Spartan warriors, as part of their training, would be sent out into the countryside to hunt down and kill any helots they encountered. And if the king was seen as weak or ineffective, well, let's just say he might find himself on the wrong end of a Spartan spear. It's like the most twisted game of hide-and-seek ever conceived. Imagine being a helot, trying to go about your day, never knowing if some baby-faced Spartan warrior is going to pop out from behind a bush and turn you into a human shish kebab. And all because the king couldn't keep his subjects in line. Talk about trickle-down terror. But wait, there's more. Let's take a quick detour to the lush jungles of ancient Mesoamerica. The Maya civilization, known for their impressive pyramids and scary accurate calendars, had their own unique spin on ritual regicide. Now the Maya kings were believed to be living embodiments of the maize god. Sounds pretty sweet, right? Well, not so fast. See, just like actual maize, these kings had a life cycle. And when that cycle was up, well, let's just say things got a bit corny. According to some interpretations of Maya artwork and writings, when a king's time was up, he would engage in a series of rituals that culminated in his own sacrifice. We're talking full-on, heart-ripping, bloodletting extravaganza here, folks. It's like the world's most metal retirement party. Imagine being that king, knowing that your days are numbered. You're sitting there in your jade-encrusted palace, munching on some chocolate. Yeah, the Maya had chocolate, lucky bastards. When suddenly you realize, oh crap, it's almost time for me to have my heart ripped out. Talk about a mood killer. But here's the real mind-bender. Many of these kings went to their deaths willingly. They believed that their sacrifice would ensure the continuation of the cosmic cycle and the prosperity of their people. It's like the ultimate taking one for the team scenario. Makes your office's casual Friday seem a bit lame in comparison, doesn't it? Now let's pivot to a slightly more, shall we say, chilly locale. We're talking about the Norse, those bearded, axe-wielding badasses who gave us Thor and Loki, and no, not the Marvel versions, you pop culture heathens. In Norse tradition, the king was seen as a link between the gods and the people. He was responsible for ensuring good harvests, victory in battle, and generally keeping the cosmic order in check. No pressure, right? Well, guess what happened when things went south? That's right, our old friend ritual regicide rears its ugly head again. According to some accounts, if a Norse king failed to bring prosperity to his people, he might find himself on the business end of a sacrificial blade. It's like a really extreme version of "you're fired," but here's where it gets really wild. In some cases, the king wasn't just killed. Oh no, that would be too simple. Instead, he was sacrificed to Odin, the head honcho of the Norse pantheon. And Odin's preferred method of sacrifice? Hanging. Yep, you heard that right. The king would be strung up like a Christmas ornament, left to dangle as an offering to the gods. Talk about a bad hang-up. Sorry, couldn't resist. Now imagine being that king. You're sitting there in your great hall, quaffing mead and regaling your warriors with tales of your mighty deeds, when suddenly the harvest fails. Next thing you know, you're being led to the sacred grove, a rope around your neck. Talk about a career nosedive. But wait, there's more. Let's take a quick jaunt over to ancient Ireland, land of rolling green hills, leprechauns, and ritualistic kingslaying? You betcha. In Irish mythology, there's a fascinating figure known as the Sacral King. This wasn't your run-of-the-mill monarch. Oh no, this guy was believed to be married to the goddess of sovereignty herself. Talk about marrying up. But here's the catch. If the king became weak, injured, or otherwise unfit to rule, it was believed that the land itself would suffer. Crops would fail, livestock would die, and general bad juju would descend upon the kingdom. The solution? You guessed it. Out with the old, in with the new. According to some interpretations of Irish myths, the aging or weakened king would be ritually sacrificed, often in pretty gruesome ways. We're talking dismemberment, drowning in bogs, the works. It's like a really, really dark version of The Bachelor. Imagine being that king, watching your hair turn gray, feeling those old battle wounds acting up, knowing that any day now, your people might decide it's time for a change in management. Talk about a stressful work environment. But here's the real kicker. In some versions of the myth, the new king had to symbolically marry the old king's widow. Remember, she's the embodiment of sovereignty, by, get this, mating with a white mare. Yep, you heard that right. Then the horse would be sacrificed, and the new king would bathe in and drink its broth. I mean, talk about an unconventional coronation ceremony. Makes the British coronation look positively boring in comparison. Now let's take a quick detour to the sun-baked savannas of Africa, specifically to the kingdom of Bunyoro in what is now Uganda. These folks had their own unique spin on the whole kill the king tradition, and let me tell you, it's a doozy. In Bunyoro tradition, when a king, known as the Omukama, felt his powers waning, he was expected to commit ritual suicide. But this wasn't your garden variety offing. Oh no, this was a drawn-out, elaborate affair that could last for days. The king would first announce his intention to die for his people. Then he'd retreat to a special house where he'd be slowly poisoned. But here's the twist. As he lay dying, he'd be expected to name his successor. Talk about pressure. Imagine trying to make a coherent decision about the future of your kingdom while you're slowly shuffling off this mortal coil. It's like trying to update your will while on a roller coaster. But wait, it gets even wilder. Once the king finally kicked the bucket, his body would be drained of fluids, which were then used in rituals to ensure the fertility of the land. Yep, you heard that right. Royal corpse juice as fertilizer. Makes Miracle Grow seem pretty tame in comparison, doesn't it? Now let's zoom back in time to ancient Rome. You might think that the mighty Roman Empire, with all its law and order, would be above such barbaric practices. Well, think again, amici miei. Enter the Saturnalia, a wild festival held every December in honor of Saturn, the god of agriculture and time. For a week, social norms were turned upside down. Slaves could speak freely to their masters. Gambling was permitted, and general debauchery was the order of the day. But here's where it gets really interesting. As part of the festivities, a king of Saturnalia would be chosen, often from among the lowliest members of society. This mock king could order people around, make ridiculous decrees, and generally live it up for a while. But as the old saying goes, all good things must come to an end. And for the king of Saturnalia, that end could be pretty darn gruesome. In some accounts, when the festival was over, this temporary king would be sacrificed to Saturn. Imagine being that poor schmuck. 1 minute you're living the high life, draped in purple robes, stuffing your face with the finest delicacies Rome has to offer. The next, you're being led to the altar, knowing that your brief taste of power is about to cost you everything. Talk about a holiday hangover. Now, as we wrap up our whirlwind tour of ritual regicide throughout history, let's take a moment to reflect on this bizarre practice. It's easy for us in our modern world of term limits and democratic elections to look at these ancient customs with horror and disbelief. But consider this. In many ways, these practices were a primitive form of checks and balances. They ensured that a leader couldn't become too powerful or remain in power if they were no longer fit to rule. It was democracy in its most brutal, primal form. Of course, that's cold comfort if you're the king being led to the sacrificial altar. But hey, that's the price of power, baby. As they say, heavy is the head that wears the crown, especially if that head is about to be separated from its body. So the next time you're having a bad day at work, just remember, at least you're not a divine king whose subjects are eyeing you suspiciously and sharpening their sacrificial knives. Now that's what I call job security. And there you have it, folks. A journey through the gruesome, fascinating world of ritual regicide. From the sun-baked pyramids of Egypt to the mist-shrouded forests of ancient Ireland, we've seen how the practice of king-killing has shaped societies and kept rulers on their toes throughout history. It's a reminder that power, no matter how absolute it may seem, is always precarious. Today's divine ruler could be tomorrow's ritual sacrifice. So if you ever find yourself in a position of power, remember, keep your friends close, your enemies closer, and maybe invest in a really good food taster. Until next time, keep your crowns polished and your escape routes clear. You never know when your subjects might decide it's time for a change in management.